So, welcome to tonight's EllieMD educational series. I am Brenda Rios, EllieMD's social media manager and tonight's host. At EllieMD, we're all about empowering healthier, longer lives through expert-led education, a supportive community, and cutting-edge wellness solutions. Tonight, we're digging into microdosing GLP-1s, smart nutrition, and how to build muscle and strength for sustainable results. I'm thrilled to welcome back Lee Anne Dunson, integrative practitioner and nutrition expert, to guide us through it all. Lee Anne Dunson is an integrative practitioner and functional nutritionist with a no-fluff approach to helping women over 40 feel at home in their bodies again. With 19 years of experience and thousands of transformations under her belt, she specializes in hormone balance, muscle retention, and real fat loss using peptides, strategic nutrition, and mindset rewiring. Lee Anne has supported thousands of women on their peptide journey in midlife, helping them ditch the stuck, reclaim their energy, and feel sexy, strong, and fully aligned. Who doesn't love that? Whether she's teaching women how to microdose GLP-1s, repair their gut, or optimize their hormones, her message is always clear. You don't have to settle. You just need the right tools and someone who gets it. Lee Anne, welcome, welcome. So
Thank
glad
you.
to have you back and speak on all of these topics. For our new and returning audience members, can you please share a little bit more about yourself and what inspired you to help so many individuals on their health journey?
I'd love to. So I had mentioned before, I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm 55. I am a mom of four. I have four grandbabies, three girls, one boy, and also a wife. Been married to my husband for 32 years, and I am an integrated practitioner. I've been in this business for 19 years. I started out as on the personal training side, always loved being, the health and wellness. And then I became a holistic nutritionist, a functional nutritionist. And then I wanted to go into become an integrated practitioner because what got me into it is I went through perimenopause. And perimenopause hit me where my hormones started tanking from a lot of stress from having four kids and craziness. And so I kept going to different doctors and I'm like, something's wrong with me. I don't know what's wrong. And I was being handed prescriptions of Xanax. And I was like, I would tell my husband, like, I don't think I'm depressed or anything. And so that kept going on. So I was like, I started doing my own research. And actually, I have to give the late Suzanne Summers credit because it was Suzanne Summers' book that totally changed everything for me. And I dug into that book and I started reading it. And I was like, there's another way out there. So that's when I became an integrative practitioner and I specialize in women's hormones because I didn't get the answer and I wanted to help support other women to actually truly get the answer. And so that's what kind of led me into that. And then now I have been strictly online doing this. I used to own a wellness center in California, moved to Nashville. So about last 8 years, been strictly online, really helping women over 35 feel seen and heard and get the answers, whether it's I'm able to help them or I'm able to point them in the right way. And then I started using peptides. So, as y'all all know, we all kind of go through these journeys. I call our health and wellness is a journey. There's not a destination, it's a journey. So one of the parts of my journey was I suffered from severe mold toxicity from happened to me in our house. And so that took me where I thought my hormones were all great. Everything was figured out. I was like, I'm nailing this whole menopause thing. And then the mold toxicity hit and it took me down. So I ended up with my hormones messed up, a gut messed up, all these things happening in my body. So that was my first actual introduction to peptides. So one of the first peptides that I ever did was BPC 157 capsules. And I use that because mold toxicity puts a havoc on your gut. So I started getting into using, BPC with the capsules, had this amazing, healing in my gut from that. So I was like, wow, this is great. And then I actually started a program called Snatch Back Your Sexy, and I brought on a hormone doctor in there. And I deal with a lot of women who have autoimmune disorders, a lot of women who haven't gotten the right answers from their doctors, and they come to me and they feel stuck. So I help them get unstuck. So one of the things is I do have a doctor that's on staff, and I was having a lot of women that were coming to me and they were like, what's this with Ozempic? I want to do this. What do you think about this? And of course, I'm an integrative practitioner. Like I was like the all natural girl, like, oh no. And then I talked to my hormone doctor because I know women. We're going to do something no matter what if we think that we're going to like for weight loss. So I was talking to him. I'm like, hey, this is what all these women are saying to me. What do you think? He was like, we can totally do this like low dose approach. So I started using this on my clients about a little over 3 years ago. And we started using this and started seeing all these changes in my women that have these autoimmune conditions. And we started noticing reduction in TPO numbers and inflammation was gone. And with the support of also using nutrition and strength training. So I started using GLP-1s then. And then, like I said, fast forward to when I went through the mold stuff, I was like, hey, I started gaining this weight around my midsection. I became like I was getting so puffy and like where to Lee, I looked like I was pregnant. I always felt like I was pregnant. I felt very puffy and I didn't feel like myself. I did not recognize the person in the mirror and I was doing all the things. I was wearing CGM, I was tracking my food, doing it all. And so I looked at him and I'm like, hey, do you think that I should do this? Like, I can do this like low dose as long as you promise me that I will not lose my appetite and I'll still be able to train and everything. And he was like, yeah. So that's what got me started all and really wanting to help women using peptides. And that's when I started like a peptide program. And now I've helped, I would say over 1,000 women, on this microdosing journey. And it's so rewarding, which I was telling Brenda before everyone got on. It's just the messages that I get from women every single day of women getting unstuck is the best thing ever.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I did tirzepatide full standard dose, and now I've been microdosing, and I'm still getting the benefits. And there's just so much, and we're gonna dive into it all. Thank you for sharing that, Leanne. And we're all here because microdosing GLP-1s, there's so much buzz around it. So you talked about your journey and how you've helped women microdose, but let's dive into the specifics. So what exactly is microdosing GLP-1s and how does it differ from a standard dose?
Well, so this is the way that I like to explain it is microdosing is really an individual approach. So it's a personalized approach to try to find your sweet spot. So the goal is to stay in, lower, do not go up to higher than the standard dose. And really some women really find the sweet spot way lower than that. So the goal is to find that sweet spot where you're still getting results, whether it's you're looking for reduction of inflammation, whether you're looking at, maybe you don't have a lot of weight to lose, but you suffer from like a lot of food noise. I have women that have had food noise since they've been 14 years old, and it seriously like causes them not to be able to even concentrate a lot in their life because they're constantly thinking about their food, whether it's obsession of certain foods, trying to stay away from the sugary and salt things. It also has amazing, like you can use it for when it comes to, like if you have, we were talking about immune issues, I would use it for autoimmune clients with Hashimoto's. So there's so many other benefits, but the goal is with microdosing is to find that sweet spot for you to where you're getting results. So you're not continuous like the standard dosing, let's say we'll throw out tirzepatide where the standard dosing is 2.5 and then it continuously goes up. With microdosing, we stay at, either that 2.5 or below.
Love that. And you stated that you microdose on your own personal journey and you've helped a lot of women and other clients microdose as well. Have you seen those benefits continue from a standard dose going over into a microdose?
I have. And I will say that's not for all women. And this is where the point is that we need to make sure that we stress with this. I see women getting amazing results going into that using microdosing as a maintenance when we also have they've put the other tools in place when they didn't use a GLP-1 as the magic as this magic injection when there was lifestyle factors that they were focusing on when they used a GLP-1 as a tool and so they focused on getting in the nutrition, building muscle and changing lifestyle factors and optimizing their hormones. The goal is to become fully optimized while using a GLP-1. And so I find women, they thrive coming from the higher dose, the way that, we bring them down to that, into that maintenance dose with using microdosing, and they're able to stay stable. They're able to maintain that weight loss. And sometimes they actually start getting better, even better results than they did when they were on the higher doses.
Oh, nice. And going into hormones a little bit more, you've mentioned that it can help with hormone regulation. How does it tie into getting that more balanced approach with metabolic support?
Well, when the GLP-1, so the GLP-1, it's a peptide, so it's a messenger. So it's giving the body, I always say it gives the body like it's all these to-do lists. So it's like you need to do this, you need to, help support their metabolism for that metabolism support, help with the pancreas, help, regulate blood sugar. Maybe it needs to help, with our kidneys, heart, brain, all everything. And so also the big thing is the reduction of inflammation. I truly believe that most of the root cause of everything that we go through is from inflammation. So if we can have that reduction of inflammation, then the body's able to heal. All the body wants to do is to be into balance. It's looking for that balance. And so that's what the GLP-1 as a peptide is the peptide's doing is it's wanting to balance out the body. So that's where it's looking at the receptors that need to be balanced out and it's finding that and it's like, all right, this is what we need to do.
I love that. And I'm sure everyone can agree that even with lower doses, we're still getting those benefits like the improved blood sugar control with the regulation of hormones. And yesterday we shared this really amazing video of you talking about your microdosing journey. Can you speak a little bit more on your experience for those that haven't watched it?
Yes. So I talked a little bit at the beginning about being an integrative practitioner, the natural, like trying. So I was doing berberine. I was doing all the supplements, that I could to try to actually really regulate for me with that insulin resistance that was going on, that was happening to me in menopause and tried all the things and I wasn't getting the results. So that's when I started actually using microdosing and finding my sweet spot to get those results. And like I said, one of the big things that I really believe that most women and men can be, but especially in the women, I work with mostly women, that one of the things is that inflammation. That inflammation is causing a lot of issues. It's causing also a lot of times we'll hold, 5 to 10 pounds of inflammatory weight. So with me, that bringing in the microdosing, one of the first things that I actually saw was that reduction of inflammation. That's when then you start noticing like, all the hard work that you're putting in, let's say in the gym, and and your body's inflamed, like you can't see that nice muscle definition because your body's inflamed. And it's hard to build muscle too with an inflamed body. So one of the things I first saw was like that reduction of inflammation. And then like I started noticing like, oh, my clothes are fitting a little bit better around my waist because if you're stuck in that insulin resistant state, you're going to continuously gain weight around your midsection. And that could be 5 pounds, that could be 10 pounds. And that's where bringing in the GLP-1, bringing in microdosing and allowing that, using it as a tool to support your body, you're able to start noticing the results like that. Because I always tell women, they come to me and they're like, I'm so stuck. Like and nothing's working. I'm working out. I'm doing strength training. I'm doing all the things and nothing's working. we throw in some microdose and all of a sudden it's like, woo, they're starting to see the results again. They feel good. And that's because we're dealing with that insulin resistance because we will keep spinning your wheels until we actually address insulin resistance. And then that's when you can start seeing your results.
Yeah, and I love that you touch on the inflammation. So I did tirzepatide for about 9 months, and now I've just been microdosing it. But I never realized how much inflammation was the root cause of a lot of issues that I was having. And even just now, I'm still maintaining my weight, which has microdosing the GLP-1 has helped with that. But especially with inflammation, I just look at before and after photos and I thought it was just weight, but it's definitely inflammation.
Oh yeah. I just put one up on my Instagram, like I think not yesterday. Yeah, maybe yesterday. But it was like I didn't even at the time, it's crazy because I was in the mirror trying to see like my muscle definition, and I was like looking and at the time I didn't realize I'm like, gosh, you didn't even realize, Lan, how inflamed you even were. And so I don't think it just happened overnight. I think that we build
Hmm.
up, through the stress of our life and also when we are in perimenopause and menopause, I'm talking to women out there, it's stress on the body. Losing estrogen, it puts our body, we're not as resilient as we were before for stress. So that bringing those stresses on, cortisol rising, going all over the place too, that can cause a lot of inflammation that goes on in the body too.
I love that. And going a little bit back, how in your journey you were trying all of these other medications and supplements, and you obviously had this a really amazing nutrition plan. Since you're so active, why is protein such a non-negotiable when someone is using a GLP-1 or even with microdosing it?
I think protein is important no matter GLP-1 or any type and for anyone. One of the things too is because muscle is our longevity. Muscle is going to protect, muscle is for our bones. Muscle is for heart. It's for also, we want to stay strong. The goal is for us to be able to stay strong, through the years and for that longevity purpose. And muscle is our metabolism. So everybody's here, trying to like, they want to get that toned up look. They're wanting to lose weight, but protein is so important for that building that muscle. And so one thing is that a lot of times when people are using a GLP-1, if they're going too high and they're dosing, they start to not eat as much. So they're not eating enough protein in their body. And one thing about protein that people don't realize that protein is actually going to increase your metabolism. It's going to heat up the body. So when you eat protein, it actually heats up the body. And the reason why, because it's as you're digesting that protein, that is heating up the body. So it's increasing. So you are burning more calories while you're eating protein. That's how I tell my women, I'm like, that struggle with protein. I'm like, so because they're always like looking at their watch, like, how many calories did I burn? And I'm like, go eat some protein and burn some calories. Like, that's the way you're going to burn more calories as you're eating protein than your other macronutrients. So that's like the super important thing. And a lot of women and men don't realize, and my husband was the one too. He had no idea he wasn't getting enough protein and what a game changer that is when you find that spot for yourself, that right spot where you're getting enough protein, of how it can be such a game changer with and GLP-1 because when we're taking GLP-1 we want to preserve muscle. I always say truly believe it's not the peptide that causes any muscle loss. When we hear all this, like, all this, talk about, and I'm walking proof of it, you hear all this talk about, losing muscle. My clients they've done DEXA scans, we've done in-body scans, and we're not seeing that because the reason why is because we're focusing on nutrition. Nutrition is a non-negotiable for me on a GLP-1 and protein is the king. So we always are looking at protein and doing all that because we're wanting to preserve that muscle. And like I said, it's not the peptide, it's the lack of macronutrients and micronutrients that you're putting in your body. And so when we're lacking that, the body needs energy. Like we need about, I always tell women that we need about 1,300 calories just for our organs and for the energy for our body to actually truly live. And so when we're cutting out our body, a lot of women are, and men are even, like I told you, my husband was eating, like we tracked his calories one day. It was like 900 for a guy. You know, it was like, this is crazy because he was like, just snacking here and there, didn't realize. But that is, if you don't have that amount of, you're not having that amount of calories or the body needs that energy, the first thing that the body is going to do is eat muscle. Muscle is very expensive. And so we need to be doing everything to actually preserve that. So one of the things that the body's going to do when it's looking for fuel, it's like, I need a fuel to keep going and for your organs to be going. And the first thing it's going to do is start to go to that muscle for fuel.
No, and I 100% agree that muscle is such a key to longevity. And it's funny that you point out that story about your husband that he wasn't getting enough calories and protein because when I started my GLP-1 journey, I was just doing the shots and I started to cut out the bad foods.
Oh, yeah.
But I wasn't really tracking my calories. And the only thing that I did with protein was that I added two more protein shakes to my diet. But at one point, I just hit a weight stall. So I had a personal coach at the gym, and the first thing that they told me was to make sure that I was getting enough protein in. And lo and behold, I increased my protein, and I was able to get past that first weight stall, but I did have a couple. I mean, I think it's a part of the journey, but it just protein is so important on a GLP-1.
Oh yeah. Well, I always tell anytime, I mean, before I mean, like I've been in this business for a long time helping, women. I was a competition coach. So, I mean, I had to put women up on pro stages, So the one thing is that no matter what, it's never going to be all like it's just going to be woo, we're just
Hmm.
losing on this weight and we're doing it. The body, it takes a while. So sometimes there's going to be like, hey, you're going to have, a win and then you're going to stay. But those are the times too, like to look at those non-scale victories and too, because the body, even when we don't feel it, like the peptide is doing so many other things that we don't know. Like I was saying, it's just trying to put the body into balance. So it's working on different receptors. And so we have no idea. Sometimes we're not seeing it, but it's doing its job.
No, agreed. And what are some common mistakes that you see with your clients when it comes to protein intake?
First, they think that having an egg in the morning is getting their protein. I had to tell a client just this week, she was like, well, I eat two eggs. And I'm like, well, you're getting about 12 grams of protein in. And I'm like, we're aiming for 40. So let's see if you only have 3 meals a day. So, and you need 120 grams of protein. So one of the things, especially, is thinking that having, an egg or two eggs is protein. Another one is thinking peanut butter is getting your protein in or avocado toast, even though it's yummy, it's not getting your protein in. So you've got to focus on, and especially I love people to, especially on GLP-1s, to truly like front load. I call front load your protein. So in the mornings, that's going to help you get to that leucine threshold. So we're able to build more muscle. So that's super important. So I always say in the mornings, like start off with a good amount of protein. Eat within an hour of waking up and get that protein in the morning and in doing that, like, so okay, let's say you have your two eggs, but why don't you take your two eggs and then add a cup of egg whites to that, or so you're not having to make extra meals, or you take your two eggs and you then put in some chicken sausage or you have some cottage cheese or Greek yogurt or anything like that. That's the biggest mistake I see, especially in breakfast, is women not doing it. Or I see when it comes to GLP-1s, with using GLP-1s, I see women, this is what I personally believe, and I've seen with working with 1,000 women, is it's not a time to fast. So, because if you are fasting using a GLP-1, The thing is, you're going to fast, you're not going to have enough time because, two, you have to remember it slows down, it's slowing down the emptying of your stomach, slowing down that digestion. So by the time later on in the night, you're trying to throw in all this protein to hit your protein goals. Like we used to call them bowls when I was competing. Like we would be at the end of the day, we're like, oh my gosh, I got to get all my protein, and we just be throwing everything in a bowl. You can't really do that. You don't want to do that on a GLP-1. It's not healthy anyways. So you want to make sure that you're pacing, your protein out. But that's where I see people is waiting all day. And then all of a sudden it's at night and they're like, oh my gosh, I need to get like 80 grams of protein. And so like then they're like totally stuck and they're trying to like get this and they never really hit that mark. And that kind of like sets us up too. If we never really feel like we're like accomplishing something, we're always constantly, going up, I'm not making it, I'm not making it, I'm not hitting that, then it kind of like puts us down too. So I'm always like, you don't have to start off as hero, go from zero to hero. Find where you start to go, okay, hey, if you're only getting 60 grams of protein, say, okay, maybe I'm going to start this week, I'm going to focus on getting 70 grams of protein. And then the next week, you focus on getting a little bit more. We have a thing that I've always used with people. It's called reverse dieting. And with reverse dieting, that's what we do. We're adding in a little bit more caloric intake, and you can do that with doing your protein.
I love that. I definitely agree with you don't have to go zero to hero. What helped me is also just doing it slowly and adding in more. I got to the point where I had to do a spreadsheet and just tracking my foods to making sure that I was getting all of my protein. So I always wanted to make sure that for my breakfast, I was hitting a certain amount, and for my lunch, I had that certain amount. There's a good question from Angela that she says it's very hard to eat a quick breakfast and get protein in the morning. What are some ideas for people who are trying to get a quick load of protein in the morning?
A really high quality protein shake is great, but when I say protein shake, I don't mean just putting in your protein and having a shake. We want to have, if you're just going to have a protein shake, it needs to be a complete meal. So you need to remember where the two things. We don't want to eat our carbs naked. And what does that mean? That means we want to always add a protein or a fat with your carbs. So you want to not also, I don't believe in just eating protein naked too. I like to add in your fats or your carbs with either one into your protein shake. So let's say an example of a protein shake could be you've got, either 1 to 2 scoops of your protein powder. You can have whether you do almond milk, coconut milk, raw milk, whatever it is, you put that in there. And then you throw in some fruit for some carbohydrates. And you throw that in there. And then maybe you want to throw in a little bit of like MCT oil for some fat or some like, it's super yummy in a protein shake is frozen avocado. Like it is so good and it makes your protein shake so smooth, like really creamy. So you could throw in like avocados and that's going to get your fat in there. And but two, like some people just put like a little bit of berries. Like we need our carbohydrates with that protein, and that's going to really help for you to build muscle too. And it's going to give you energy throughout the day. We can't be, and it's also going to help you with that insulin resistance. People think it's the opposite, but that's a great thing to have a protein shake. A lot of people like cottage cheese and like pineapple or fruit. Something like that will get you a good amount. You could do if you're really like at nighttime. Another really good one is you can do like the overnight like chia like the overnight little chia jars and put your protein powder in there with some fruit and maybe some nut butter. And that's really quick for you to go. I tell everyone it's just that we have to, I know it can be, daunting at times, but we've got to become intentional at the beginning. So maybe if you haven't been doing any of this stuff, maybe you've been fasting for, the 12-hour fast and you haven't been getting your protein in. Like one of the things is it's just you have to become a little bit intentional. And that doesn't mean doing like tracking for a lifetime or anything like that, but just spend a week on being super intentional on seeing where you're at because data helps a lot. So you can go, hey, you know what? I realize what I've been doing. I'm only getting 60 grams. I mean, I'm going to tell you a lot of women 45 grams of protein when I see, and they're like, okay, so let's change. So be intentional. You're going to look at it. You're going to go, okay, this is where I can see I can add to it. And then you don't have to keep doing like the tracking part every single week, but you know then, hey, this is the goal. And then track again, like maybe after you do that for a month, then track back again and see where you're at.
I definitely agree that we can be more intentional. Someone mentioned that they're doing protein coffee, and that's how I started to really analyze my nutrition plan and see where I can add it in. So I thought, okay, in the morning, let me get a little bit more protein. So I'll change out my regular latte for a protein coffee that has 20 grams.
Oh yeah. No, I add protein wherever I can. I have this like a little adaptogen, it has protein and adaptogens in it. It's a coffee mix, and I put that in my coffee too. So yeah, it's really it's wherever you can find. It's like it's adding to. I told you this is where too you don't have to like start. It's just adding to what you're already doing. So like you said, I'm drinking coffee. So what can I add to that to get my protein? And my breakfast, what you're already doing, with your lunch, what you're already doing. Like I tell people, like a lot of when, let's say you're eating tuna fish, like you get a certain tuna fish that you get. Well, then maybe you're this one tuna fish you have, maybe it only has like 15, 18 grams of protein, but you can get safe catch tuna that has 42 grams of protein in the one can. So like those little switches, that little bit where I say to be intentional, those little teeny tweaks can make a big difference.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the little tweaks. I just the a few weeks ago I found this iced protein green tea lemonade and it's
Oh.
so delicious. I really thought it was going to be very bland and not not that great, but just one serving is already 20 grams. So I'd love to have that with my lunch or dinner. So it's just really taking a step back and seeing where can I add a little bit more protein, and there's so many amazing products out there.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of ways. I mean, I always tell people like I try to get most everything from whole food sources, but I'm telling you it's a lot better whether you define a really good if you're not getting enough protein, you're like, I'm just not doing it. I need something fast that needs to be grabbed. It's better to have a protein bar than not to have enough protein. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
it's know that part because you need to get those, you need to get that macronutrients in, and you need your micronutrients, also.
And going into nutrients, so if we're on a GLP-1, sometimes key nutrients can fall short, maybe even collagen, for example. And we do see it a lot online, people saying that their hair is getting thinner. So when it comes to collagen, why is it so important in supplementing that for weight loss?
Well, it's your building blocks. So it's really super important as we're losing weight, we lose weight and we lose that, either the fat that we're losing, our skin becomes a little bit looser. And so having that collagen in there to really truly tighten the skin is super important. And by the time we're like 40, I mean, our collagen production that's there is just not that great. I hate to say
Hmm.
it. I mean, I'm 55, so I'd say it's just not that great. So we do need to, that's a time that we need to start supplementing or using peptides that actually help that production for our body to make our own collagen production. But the collagen goes more than just like the skin, your hair, your nails, all of that too. And a lot of that is with the gut. So collagen's amazing for your gut. We have our gut junctions, that we want nice and tight so our bodies are able to absorb nutrients. And our hair is a luxury. So hair is a luxury. And the part of in nails and all that is and our skin to glow is a luxury. And we get that from our nutrients. But if our stomach is our junctions are wide open and we're not being able to get absorb those nutrients, that's where we're going to start seeing like lack in our hair and our skin and the glow in our nails too, is because we just can't absorb it. So that's where I love, collagen. I will have to throw in that one of my favorites is BPC 157, TB 500 capsules for that is a game changer. Anybody, if you have any gut issues, but that is like a huge one for me. And
And
then
what about,
our joint, like one of the things too, like
mhm.
as with me being 55, like I work out hard. I want to be able to have collagen too to help, lubricate with my joints too.
I love that. Yeah, I definitely wanted to make sure that I was getting collagen in when I started my GLP-1 journey. So what about fiber? So we're eating less on a GLP-1, so that may mean that our digestion can be slow, and fiber plays such a key role in keeping things moving with supporting gut health and blood sugar balance. Can you elaborate on why fiber is such an essential nutrient on a GLP-1 journey?
Yeah, so one thing is with when you're on a GLP-1 journey, we want to make sure that our pathways are continuously flowing open. It's a lot of women, even before you started GLP-1, you might have not had your pathways open. You might have not worked with someone that says, hey, we need to, work on your pathways to open it up as we're starting this. But so fiber really helps keep you regular. As we know, one of the side effects can be from GLP-1 is constipation. So we want to make sure that we're getting enough fiber, but also fiber is great to help regulate for blood sugar too. So it's amazing for that. Another thing too that we can use along that I recommend to use along with fiber is to use, and we might be talking a little bit about this, so I'm going to throw it in here, is to use with your fiber. Is a magnesium glycinate. So that can help so you bring the fiber in, you're bringing in this bulk, okay? And then we want to make sure that bulk doesn't like stay there. So if someone's already kind of like not moving, smoothly, their pathway smoothly, we want to bring in that magnesium glycinate, or, some people like citrate. I love glycinate and mix with a citrate or, an oxy powder, something like that. And you bring that in and it helps move then the fiber too to clean the colon.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Do you think that there are other key nutrients that are often depleted in people with GLP-1s? Do you see any within your own clients?
I do. So I recommend definitely B vitamins. So, I mean, I personally do with my injection. I know that we have where it has, trace amounts of vitamin, B12 in there, but I recommend doing with, a methylated B12. You can include it in your injection or you can do it separate, but or you can choose to do, in capsule form, but you want a good methylated B12 is really great, that to add in. The other thing, like I was mentioning, I think every single person is depleted in magnesium. And I find people doing the wrong magnesium, like they're worried about more like they want for the constipation issues, and they're like, I just want to, to poop. They're like, come on, like I'm constipated. But glycinate is so important for the body. It's one thing it's really hard for us to get magnesium in our food. So to throw in and have like a good magnesium glycinate is amazing for our heart, too. So we have to look at things also and like, what is this doing for our body? But most people are lacking certain minerals. And like I said, magnesium glycinate is a non-negotiable for my clients. They all know they're going to I send a whole sheet. They know that they're getting magnesium glycinate is a non-negotiable with that. Protein, is non-negotiable. And then the other thing too, like I said, the B vitamins. And then you want to make sure also, like when you're doing all your minerals, you want to get to make sure when you're hydrated. So a lot of people think that they're hydrated because they drink a lot of water. But we do pee. If you're drinking a lot of water, you're going to be peeing out a lot of minerals. So I recommend every single person that's on a GLP-1, my one non-negotiable is them to do an electrolyte blend with the right amount of magnesium, sodium, and potassium. And you want to get a high quality sodium. There's a lot of crappy stuff out there, but you want a high quality sodium that's in with the right ratios. And that's like a great way. So if people feel like, hey, I have a headache, or they're feeling like the results aren't as great, is you just add in that electrolytes. I'm losing my voice now.
There's a lot of notes. I have magnesium, glycoside, and B vitamins. Those are not what I had on my list, but really good to know. Thank you for sharing that. And
Oh,
definitely the quality of hydration, it's so important as well.
oh yeah.
And I hear that also probiotics can be beneficial for GLP-1 users. Can you elaborate a little bit on that and how does it tie in with the gut microbiome? Right before we jumped on the call, I was telling Leanne that I had chronic tonsillitis, and it wasn't until I started to get a couple of doses in of tirzepatide that it just completely went away.
Well, I was saying like part of that too is the inflammation, and the other part is like resetting that gut microbiome. So I love that's a lot of my people that come in and start using like, semaglutide or tirzepatide. They all of a sudden are like, hey, like my gut, like I feel better. I'm not getting sick as often. And that's because what did I say? Like the inflammation is the root cause the most, but also because really a lot of this sickness and things that we have to do with the gut. I can't like totally know the whole like how it's exactly working, but I can tell you what I see through the thousands of people, including myself, is there is a reset that's happening within the gut. And so being able to use like using a GLP-1 and resetting that, that's like been a game changer. Like people who have colitis, that's like with my husband, I can speak to it because that's his testimony, is his whole family's had colitis and high blood pressure, and using a GLP-1, all of a sudden he doesn't have, he's like, is this supposed to happen? Because that's not the reason why I went on it. And he's like, I don't have any of my colitis issues. And so that's like super beneficial with that, is that resetting the gut microbiome. But you can't expect the reset of the gut microbiome to be happening if you pathways are not open. And that's where having the right, making sure like you are, I always tell women, just going to the bathroom every other day, it doesn't cut it. That's not healthy. It's not normal. You need to be going 1 to 2 times. But I always tell women it's a minimum of 1 time a day.
I love that. And so we covered our starting from microdosing and we got our nutrition in. Now, going into our journey and continuing it, we talked a little bit about strength and how important it is to exercise. How important is it to maintain that muscle, especially for women who are in that perimenopause and menopause phase?
Well, we lose 8% every year of our muscle, and we lose 10% once we hit the age of 70. So it's super important. Where we talked about that is going to be that's your longevity. Muscle is your longevity. Muscle can help you protect you from when you take a fall. Muscle is going to help you with mobility. Muscle is going to be for your metabolism. So it's super important to maintain that muscle. But as we are losing muscle every year, that's why if we're not working on putting muscle, like, building muscle, then can you imagine we're just going to keep losing it and losing it? Like I said, by the time you're 70, you're now then losing, 10%. So the best thing is to do is start focusing on it now by doing the right amount of like, so how you build muscle is through getting the right macronutrients, micronutrients, and stimulating the muscle the way we're at. And as in midlife, if we're talking in midlife, the muscle has to be stimulated in a different way. So the things we did before doesn't always work now. We have to stimulate the muscle. Like, and so what I use in my programs and what I personally use myself is a progressive overload plan. So that progressive overload plan means that I'm stimulating that muscle and I'm getting stronger. So the goal is to get stronger. Each and every month you do a plan, you get stronger and stronger. So you're stimulating that muscle. Two, the things we did before, if we were doing like all the crazy cardio and we were, doing all these like HIIT classes and all those things that we were doing before, when we come into midlife, those things don't work anymore, because what I mentioned before is as your estrogen has declined like that, we are not as resilient to stress. So what is doing all those HIIT and all those classes and everything we're doing, it's putting more stress on the body. So what does that do? Then that's affecting our cortisol. And then we're like, I don't know why I can't lose weight. I'm having all these issues. So and that's where then to what happens when the cortisol too starts happening, inflammation in the body, and the muscle starts to deteriorate. So the body's not able to build that muscle. So focusing on a progressive overload strength training where you're getting adequate amount of rest, because building muscle happens in the recovery process. So you're building, and then we have to feed the muscle, and then we have to recover. So you have to allow the body to do all three of those to really build that muscle that you're wanting. And everyone wants, like, they're like, I want that tone look, I want this look. That's muscle. So you want to change your body composition. You want your body to look nice and like I use the word tone because that's what people say. Use tone and you want to, look that lean look. That is what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to reduce your body fat and build muscle. So if you reduce your body fat and you don't have any muscle, we've all seen that it's not that look you're looking for. So and that's where too you'll see a lot of people who have used maybe GLP-1s and they didn't have a strength training program. They weren't focusing on building muscle, getting protein and all that, and then all of a sudden they lose all the weight and they don't have the muscle there and they haven't been focusing on their macronutrient and micronutrients, and then they gain all the weight back because muscle is your metabolism also. The more muscle you have, the higher your metabolic rate's going to be, and the more food you can eat. So it's a beauty. It's the beauty in that.
Yeah, thank you for touching on that. I've have always gone to the gym, and it wasn't until I started to take the GLP-1 that I was able to shed the weight. But it wasn't until I actually started to strength train that I actually started to see leaner arms. So it's definitely so important. And again, it's such a key to longevity. And
Oh,
oh, how would you recommend beginners start with strength training? Because even for me, I was so intimidated to start. So how do
start
you do it without feeling so overwhelmed? And
Yeah, I mean, start out. I have women in my programs that just start off. I'm like, start off at home, grab, some bands on Amazon, so if you don't even want to get dumbbells, some bands. But dumbbells is what I prefer, like, dumbbells, something that's going to, at the beginning, challenge. So what challenges me, might be different than what challenges you. So I'll give you a key is the way that you're going to build muscle as a beginner is just find out as you start, do something at home for like 20, 30 minutes, start off at 2 times a week. And then after you're like nail the 2 times a week, then add another day, maybe 3 times a week, to 4 times a week. But what your goal should be is if you're doing this at home or you're going to the gym, is you want to focus on something that's the last 2 reps is where you want to be challenged. So those last 2 reps can be, and as I said, that's where weight can be different from everyone. What challenges you that last 2 reps, you're like, this actually feels a little hard. You want that because that's what's going to stimulate that muscle growth. And that's what we call progressive overload. So the next time you come back to that exercise, let's say it was you were doing, some shoulder presses, okay? And okay, you got some dumbbells, you had some 10 pounds, you're pressing, and the last 2 reps feel hard, okay? The next time you finish your sets, the next time you come back to that exercise, you're like, okay, this is where you become intentional. So you write that down, what you did, or you have an app that says it, and you're like, okay, I did 10 pounds, I did 12 reps. So the next time you come back to that, you're like, all right, I'm going to do then, if you can't lift more than 10 pounds, you're like, I can't go more than 10 pounds. Then you go 10 pounds and you're like, do 13 reps. That's progressive overload. So it doesn't have to be that you keep going up in the weight. It has to do that maybe you go up in the reps. So you want to always keep stimulating the body in that way to getting stronger. So that's the way, even as a beginner, it doesn't have to be that you have to go and start doing you'd have to do deadlifts and have bars and do all that. Just find something that will actually challenges you the last 2 reps. And that might be a 3 pound weight, it might be a 5 pound weight, a 10 pound weight. So don't let that discourage you of where you at. We all have to start somewhere. We all have to start. We all were once beginners. I was once a beginner. I will tell you, I used to be like when I first started back in the day with starting the gym, I'll never forget that I hired a coach and she wanted me not to go into the women's side. This was back in the day where there was the women's and there was the men's side of the gym. And the men's side had all these dumbbells and the heavier stuff. And she was like, I want you to go out there. I'm challenging you to go out there and go to the men. And I was like totally intimidated. I was like so nervous, had to go out there. and go out there to lift the weights. And but that is where I found like me challenging myself and putting myself out there around other people who were doing what I want to do. They were lifting a little bit heavy. They were steps ahead of me. So that's why I love getting in the gym, but I know not everyone is at that place. So start off maybe at home and then work yourself up to once you outgrow that where you're like, hey, the weights I have at home, these aren't challenging me anymore. So you're like, I need to go then you go to the gym and then you challenge yourself a little bit more. But it's all about steps. Remember, this right now is a journey. It's not a destination. So you just keep growing each and every time.
I love that. It's yes, I definitely agree that it's a journey. It's part of the process. And I've seen people at the gym get the really big weights and very shortly after they're done, and people with the shorter weights, they're just going.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's just like I said, it's every person's like, how much weight should I be lifting? It's like it doesn't matter. It's like whatever stimulates you, like that's going to challenge you those last two reps. If that's so easy where you're like, so let's say you're going to do 12 reps. And if it's so easy for you getting through those 12 reps and you're like, all right, I could, you feel like I could do 20, that means that weight's not heavy enough for you.
I love that. And I know we are coming up on time, and we love always having you here and giving us all of these amazing tips. I'm sure for the next time that you're back on, we're all going to have been more intentional with our nutrition and the way that we're strength training. One piece of advice that you want to give anyone who's trying to feel strong and confident in their body again?
My one thing is quit focusing on shrinking yourself and to focus on getting stronger. I'm telling you, if you focus on getting stronger, that's where you're going to see your results in that and not focusing on comparing yourself to somebody else's journey. If you keep comparing yourself to someone, because each journey looks completely different. My journey is going to look different than yours. And so focus on you, focus on building yourself, getting stronger, and that's then going to help build your confidence. And I will just tell you that quit relying on the scale to tell you whether you're doing good or not, because the scale is definitely a liar. And I will tell you, because back in the day, I was in the competition side. And when I went and I won, when I was going to win this competition, one of the biggest competitions that I was putting myself out there and won it all, the one thing I did is I gained about 8 pounds and I became the smallest version of myself. I was, size. And if I would have relied on that scale and what the scale was telling me, I would have quit. And I would have never been able to get to this place and won some of these competitions that I won if I would have relied that. I would have quit because I would have believed that this isn't working. I would have said, this isn't working for me. There's no way I'm not doing this. So don't rely on that scale telling you that this is working for you at night. Keep this vision, keep tunnel vision, and focus on what's ahead of you. Take one step at a time. Focus on being intentional, doing the steps, the non-negotiables. Focus on your getting your macronutrients, your micronutrients in, and building then that great foundation. Because that if you build a great foundation, that foundation won't be able to be moved a lot once, like let's say you go off GLP-1s and all that. That foundation is going to be strong that you're never back at square one ever again.
Oh, thank you so much. I love that parting advice. How can anyone reach out to you if they want to learn more? I saw a lot of comments that they were interested in what collagen and fiber brands that you're using.
Oh yeah, at my Instagram is where I'm always at. So it's just my name. So it's at Lee Anne Dunson. And you can get, I'm in my stories. I share a lot in my stories. I share what I use and share what I love. You'll only ever find things that I truly love and truly believe in on my page or in my stories.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. I love it.
Of course, it's always amazing having you here, and I definitely took a lot of good notes. I'm definitely gonna get
Oh.
my magnesium in.
Yes, it's the best. And I'm going to share, I'll tell you all if you can go look my favorite magnesium that and all my clients will know it is fail proof if you have dealing with constipation is it's called Mag Soothe. I saw someone else because I have affiliations with some other ones, but I always tell, like I said, I always tell, even if I don't have any affiliation, I'm going to tell you the best one that helps you with keeping everything regular. It's called Mag Soothe if you want to know great magnesium. And they actually have a store on Amazon or you can get it out, but it's really good. It's a powder form and it's like a raspberry lemonade.
Amazing. Well, Max Smooth, everyone. Make sure you get that in your
I
notes.
have no affiliation with them, but I totally it's the one of the best.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us. So, we will have Dr. Wagner next week talking about some peptides and some special ones for the continuing of your longevity journey and to further support that GLP-1 journey as well. Again, thank you so much, Lee Anne, and thank you all for joining us.